Good morning, everybody. Welcome to English Grammar. Today is May 3rd, 2020, and we will be discussing our latest material according to our calendar, which is on adverb clauses. Now, adverb clauses, according to our syllabus, we were meant to talk about adverb clauses last week. But as you know, I had a week, the week where your exam was due, that I was feeling ill. I was feeling poorly. My throat was bothering me. So that week kind of delayed some of the issues that we've spoken about. So instead of last week, we ended adverb clauses. Last week, we ended adjective clauses. And this week, we go on to adverb clauses. So May 4th to May 8th. And it shouldn't be that much because it's not too much material. And today we'll cover half of it. And on Wednesday, we will cover the other half. And then on Friday, we'll be showing this movie that some of you may have seen with me in a previous class that maybe you took with me, like World Englishes, but we'll be watching it for this class with the perspective of English grammar. So I'll give you the code to watch this film on Friday, and I'll give you also a quiz for you to complete during the weekend based on the film. And then on this week, we will do review clauses, and that Saturday, May 18th, will be your third and final exam on clauses. And then on May 18th to May 22nd, we'll do a little section or a little class on diagramming syntactic trees. So it'll just be like a mini tutorial. And then that's that. Then we have our final, which I assume that you guys have seen the program. And because this course has been online and a little bit of mixed and all, I am required to give you a final. So I am required to test you on all the knowledge that you've learned. So make sure that you've been up to date with everything that you've learned in this class, because it's all coming. It's going to be a final, okay? And everybody has to take it, sadly, because of, well, our current circumstances. It wouldn't be too fair. Okay, so. All right. So adverb clauses. Look at how nice the sky is. That's how the sky is for us today. So adverb clauses, just like noun clauses and adjective clauses, are dependent. So they are subordinate clauses, and they have to be attached to a main part of the sentence or independent clause so they can communicate meaning. So that means that they cannot stand on their own in a sentence, in a written sentence in English, but they have to be connected to something else. So we can define them as a group of words that are used to change or qualify the meaning of an adjective, verb, a clause, or another adverb. So while we said that noun clauses were to do with our subjects and our objects, and we said that adjective clauses describe a property of the subject, well, adverb clauses can describe adjective clauses, or they can describe properties of adjectives, they can describe properties of verbs, they can describe or properties of another adverb, okay? So the type of questions that an adverb clause can answer is when, so in what way? So when did it happen, after, when, until, before, once, while, as soon as, whenever, by the time. So these words could all introduce an adverb clause, or how, like in what way, if, whether or not, provided, in case, unless, even if, in the event, or why. So again, it's qualifying or changing the meaning. It's giving a description of why. Because, as, since, so, in order that, now that, inasmuch as, and where. So qualifying the meaning of an adjective, etc. Wherever, where. So we can use adverb clauses pretty much anywhere within a sentence structure. So we can have them at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of a sentence. Okay. So when placed at the beginning or the middle, we have to have them between commas. So at the beginning, when it ends, we would put a comma, or in the middle, we would have it between commas, okay? So it has to be differentiated from the rest of the sentence in these positions through use of punctuation. So adverb clause and punctuation. When an adverb clause precedes an independent clause, a comma is used to separate the clauses from each other. So precedes meaning when it comes before the independent clause. So the independent clause in this case is, we saw several plays, we, subject, saw, verb, several plays, object. So when we were in New York, time. So that's an adverb. We saw several plays. So it's modifying this clause. So it occurs at the beginning, so we use a comma. And our relative pronoun or our adverb clause pronoun is when. When the adverb clause follows, no comma is used. So if it's at the end, there is no comma. Like, we saw several plays when we were in New York. So when we were in New York, this is the adverb clause. It happens at the end. And as you can see, there is no comma. Okay, so it all depends on the positionality. And that's how you decipher the sort of punctuation that you're going to adopt. So adverb clauses are dependent clauses. They cannot stand as a sentence in written English. So what is not an adverb clause? When we were in New York, we saw several plays. That's not an adverb clause. Those are sentences that are differentiated from each other. He went to bed because he was sleepy. These are not adverb clauses, even though we have the word because and when. These are not adverb clauses. When is it an adverb clause? When it's joined to an independent clause. So when we were in New York, we saw several plays, adverb clause. We saw several plays when we were in New York, adverb clause. Because he was sleepy, he went to bed, adverb clause with because he went to bed because he was sleepy, okay? So they need to be attached to an independent clause. So in Azar's book, the version that I gave you on page 359, there's a summary of all the words that are used or can be used to introduce adverb clauses. So she kind of differentiates different types of adverb clauses differently from the questions that I said before, the when, how, why, where, right? So she makes these distinctions. So she says there's adverb clauses with regards to time. So when, after, by the time that, before, once, when, as, so as long, while, whenever, as, every time that, as soon as, the first time that, since, the last time that, until, the next time that. So again, all these words can be found at the beginning of a clause, and it's introducing the adverb clause. And they tell the information of when, so time. They could also do cause and effect or why, right? So because, now that, since. So these words give information as to why something happens, and the adverb clause is giving the definition as to why. Because, now that, and since, cause and effect. Or it could provide contrast. So even though, although, though. Or it could also provide a type of contrast called direct contrast, while, whereas. Or it can provide a condition: if, unless, only if, whether or not, even if, in case, in the event that. So this condition can answer the question how, right? In what cases, how, if, unless, only if, whether or not, even if, in the case, and in the event of, any event of. It's condition. So these are the different subcategories of adverb clauses that qualify adjectives, adverbs, and verbs. So let's do exercise 1 on page 300 and, what page is this? I can't see because there's something blocking me. 360. So adverb clauses expressing time. Add periods, commas, and capitalization. Do not add or omit any words. Underline the adverb clause. So she doesn't want anyone to add words, right? So no creativity, basically, just use what you've got. So when it began to rain, he closed the windows. So we have the adverb clause here. It's at the beginning, so expressing time when it began to rain. So because it's at the beginning, we know that there's a comma that follows. So that's how it would look like, and we underline our adverb clause. When it began to rain, comma, he closed the windows. He closed the windows when it began to rain. So in this case, it's in another position, it's at the end, and because it's at the end, there is no comma, and we underline when it began to rain, okay? So I saw that in some of your exercises for noun clauses, you guys forgot to underline the WH words. The WH words, or the relative pronouns, or the pronouns, are part of your clauses. So whenever I give you an exercise to underline a clause, you need to underline this word, because this word is what the beginning of that clause, okay? Otherwise, you'll lose points. So the next one is, as soon as the rain began, the children wanted to go outdoors. They loved to play outside in the warm summer rain. I used to do the same thing when I was a child. That's like a super run-on sentence without any punctuation. So let's go from the beginning. As soon as it began to rain, time. At the beginning, comma. As soon as is our pronoun that introduces the time. The children wanted to go outdoors. That's your independent clause with subject, verb, and object. They love to play outside in the warm summer rain. There is no adverb clause here. This is an independent clause, a sentence without any adverb clause. I used to do the same thing when I was a child. Here we have another adverb clause, but it occurs at the end of the sentence. So that means that there's no comma, and it starts with the word when. So when I was a child. And that's how you would do an exercise like exercise 1. Then we have our first type of adverb clauses that was described by Azar, those that describe cause and effect. So an adverb may precede or follow the independent clause. Notice the punctuation in A and B. So A and B are adverb clauses of cause and effect, using the word because. So because is used to describe cause and effect. I did this because, etc., ¿verdad? Porque. Because he was sleepy at the beginning, comma, he went to bed, independent clause. He went to bed because he was sleepy. Because he was sleepy is the adverb clause, there is no comma. Now that, another relative pronoun expressing time. So now that means because now, right? Since, right? Now that the semester is over, means because the semester is now over. Now that is used for present causes of present or future situations, right? You wouldn't use now that to talk about something that happened in the past. You can say now that Catherine finally finished cleaning her clothes, something that just happened now, not something that happened yesterday. We can use the laundry room. So now that the semester is over, at the beginning, comma, I'm going to rest a few days and then take a trip. Jack lost his job, independent clause. Now that he's unemployed, this is your adverb clause followed by a comma. He can't pay his bills. That's sad. I'm sorry, Jack. Everybody's nightmare. Anyway, so then we have since. Since also describes cause and effect. When since is used, it's used to mean because. So it's again, it's cause and effect, all of these. It expresses a known cause. It means because it is a fact, usually when we say since you like reading books so much, right? So that you like reading books so much is a fact, or given that it is true that you like something, so cause and effect, then I'm gonna give you all these other books that I have in my room. So, because cause and effects with since say, given the fact that X is true, Y is the result. So I'm gonna loan you all these books because I know that you like books. In E, given the fact that Monday is a holiday, we don't have to go to work. So since has two meanings. One is to use it as because, so cause and effect. So it is also used in time clauses. So you can say, since I came here, since I arrived, I have met many people. So you can use it to talk about introduce something that is a fact about a person or a place or a thing, or you could use it to talk about a time. So the same way, that second definition is more similar to now that. Okay, so you can be like, since I came here, I have met many people. Except that since I came here doesn't refer to something in the present. It can refer to something from the past. Okay, so it can be used to express time or express a fact and the cause and effect. So since Monday is a holiday, we don't have to go to work. Okay, so this is a fact. Since you're a good cook and I'm not, you should cook the dinner. So again, this is a fact. You're a good cook, I'm not, cause and effect. Okay, so these are the words introducing cause and effect. So exercise 3, combine the sentences using the word or phrase in parentheses, add commas where necessary. We can go swimming every day. The weather is warm. The words in parentheses are now that. So cause and effect. We can go swimming every day now that the weather is warm. Or you can have it at the beginning. Now that the weather is warm, comma, we can go swimming every day. Okay, so that's another, there's two ways of doing these. All of the sentences, all of the students had done poorly on the test. The teacher decided to give it again. Between parentheses, since all the students had done poorly on the test, comma, the teacher decided to give it again. Or the teacher decided to give the test again, since all the students had done poorly on it. Cold air hovers near the earth. It is heavier than hot water. Cold air hovers near the earth because it is heavier than hot water. Or you can say, because cold air hovers near the earth, and then comma, it is heavier than hot water. Okay. You paid for the theater tickets. Please let me pay for your dinner. Since you paid for the, there's a since here, but I didn't include it. Since you paid for the theater tickets, please let me pay for your dinner. So since you paid, fact, or please let me pay for your dinner. For our dinner, since you paid for the theater tickets. So that's exercise 3, and that's how you would go about doing it, and adding punctuation. And again, these since, because, now that are all words of cause and effect, and they are adverb clauses. But adverb clauses can also express contrast. So contrasting ideas. So because is used to express expected results, even though it's used to express unexpected results. So this is when we're contrasting ideas or events. Because and even though introduce an adverb clause. We already saw because earlier when we were talking about because as an adverb clause of cause and effect. Well, Azar also counts it as an adverb word for expressing contrasting ideas. Okay, so you can say, because the weather was cold, an idea, I didn't go swimming, right? And this is an expected result. So obviously, because the weather was cold, I didn't go swimming. So it can also be seen as a cause and effect, right? Because it's telling you a reason why and then why you didn't go swimming. So it could both be unexpected result, contrasting ideas, and cause and effect. Even though the weather was cold, I went swimming. So here it's unexpected, right? Because even though it was cold, you still went swimming anyway. That's unexpected. Because I wasn't tired, I didn't go to bed. So that makes sense. Expected result. Even though I wasn't tired, I went to bed. So even though we know, we use even though to express something that's unexpected. So that's an adverb clause, basically. So anything that's introduced with these words is a dependent clause that depends on another component or an independent clause to communicate meaning or contrasting ideas in this case. So complete the sentences by using either even though or because. And you have to take into consideration the context or the meaning of the examples. No es que puedes poner cualquiera al azar. Tienes que pensar, okay, which one makes sense? Which one is expected? Which one's unexpected? So for our first example, you would put, I put on my sunglasses. It was a dark, cloudy day. So that's unexpected. You're putting on your sunglasses even though you don't actually need them. So you can put, I put on my sunglasses even though it was a dark, cloudy day, because it's unexpected. I put on my sunglasses because the sun was bright, so it's expected. So I don't like these two examples. I'm gonna say parenthesis. These two examples were used in Azar's older volume of her English grammar book. But some of you have her newer version of this book, and in her newer 2017 version, she changes these examples, and they are for, I think she changes them for obvious reasons, because the older version had Maria has a job. She doesn't make enough money to support her 4 children. Maria is a Hispanic name. And then we have Anglo Ana has a job. She is able to pay her rent and provide food for her family. So these examples are a little bit racist. So because they promote or propagate stereotypes of people who can afford, and, you know, class differences and ethnic backgrounds. So in her new book, in the revised version, these names have changed. And these names are no longer there, and it's much more inclusive. Her newer version is much more inclusive in the examples, and it uses names from all sorts of multicultural backgrounds. So just, that's additional information. So anyway, so let's forget the fact that this is a Hispanic name for this example. So Maria has a job. She doesn't make enough money to support her children. So even though somebody has a job, they still don't make enough money. So even though is the word that is unexpected. It's an idea that's unexpected, right? Two contrasting ideas that are unexpected. Here it's expected. Anna has a job. She's able to pay for her rent, provide food for her family. So we use the word because. So another adverb clause that we can use is while and whereas. So while and whereas express direct contrast. So the other ones express unexpected and expected contrast, while and whereas are used to show direct contrast. So this is exactly the opposite of that. Okay, so it's not like unexpected and expected. It's contrasting ideas. So you wouldn't use while or whereas when they're not super opposite to each other. So while or whereas may be used with the idea of either clause with no difference in meaning as well. So whereas is mostly used in formal written English, whereas, right? And a comma is usually used even if the adverb clause comes second. So irregardless of positionality of the adverb clause, with these words, there seems to be a use of comma always. So maybe that's worth pointing out when you're practicing your clauses and punctuating your clauses, that while and whereas are the exception to the rule. So it doesn't matter where they are positioned, you'll find a clause. So you'll find a comma. So let's see the example. Mary is rich while John is poor. So here, while John is poor is a dependent clause. It's dependent on the independent clause. Mary is rich. So 2 different ideas. And you can see there's a comma here, even though it's at the end of the sentence. John is poor while Mary is rich. Same thing. So while Mary is rich, still dependent, still a comma. Mary is rich, whereas John is poor. Whereas Mary is rich, John is poor. So while is also used in time clauses. So you can also use while not only to express contrasting ideas, but also to express people doing things simultaneously in time. So while you're doing this, I'm doing this other thing. So during the time that. So while I was studying, the phone rang. So talking about two different actions. So exercise 9, using while and whereas. Complete the sentences, discuss other ways of expressing the same idea by moving the position of while and whereas. Some people are fat, whereas some people are fat, whereas others are thin. Whereas some people are fat, others are thin. Some people are thin, whereas others are fat. So you see the adverb clause. They're in different positions at the end, at the beginning, they're underlined, and a comma is used for whereas. Some people are tall, whereas some people are tall, whereas others are small, right? So we finish with a contrasting idea. So if we're talking about tall, what's the opposite of tall? Other people are small. And those ideas contrast with one another. Whereas some people are tall, others are small. Some people are small, whereas others are tall. So those are all the potential combinations. And as you can see, the comma is used consistently, irregardless of the position of our dependent adverb clause, using while and whereas. Okay? So homework for Friday, exercise 5 in page 364, exercises 10 to 12. Exercise 9 in page 366, 3 to 5. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.